Hey everyone, how are you doing? I am Clara, and I'm back reviewing my second big Red Raven game of the year, and that is Now or Never. So Now or Never is the third part of a trilogy which is set in the Red Raven world, in Ryan Lockett and Co.'s world, and it's the third part in a trilogy which started with Above and Below, carried on with Near and Far, and now there's Now or Never. It's the third one. I have owned or do own all three of the trilogy, and they are versus games. So it's, players versus each other, but they have these aspects of storytelling, they have aspects of engine building and things like that. And it's interesting because for years I've been kind of, hoping that I would get a cooperative Red Raven games because I love Red Raven games. I love this world and the world that are built by Ryan Lockett, and so I was really hoping for a cooperative game. And when Sleeping Gods came out, it was like, yes. And I did a review on my channel earlier this year and I loved it. I absolutely love it. And I'm just trying to figure out whether I can afford to back the sequel, Distant Skies. I'm not sure yet. So I absolutely love this game. And then Now or Never came along, and I was like, oh, I don't want another Versus game. But you know what? I think this might be my favorite Red Ravens game. I absolutely love this game. And I'll be honest, I have no need to play Near and Far anymore. I'll be honest, I'd rather play this. Now, there is a caveat to that. It's a long game, it's not a short game. It's a good long game. So you've got to be aware of that because yeah, it takes hours, but I absolutely love it, and it's a game that I think I'll be able to play enough, and certainly I would choose it over the other Red Raven games. So let me sort of explain why it's my favorite and why I love it, and yeah, so we'll come back in a second. Okay, so I think that it's important that I talk about the comparisons in some way of Near and Far and Above and Below, and compare them to Now or Never and say how they fit together. So I've seen Now or Never described as sort of a mix of different Red Raven games mechanisms all together in one box, and that's absolutely true. So I said that you have your engine building and you have your village building, which is your engine, and then you also have this storytelling aspect, and then there is a campaign that you can choose to play through or not. And I've played without the campaign, and I've played a few games of the campaign as well with a couple of people. I've played 2 and 3 players, and I'm entranced. So is it kind of like a greatest hits of mechanisms of others in the series, and to some degree Sleeping Gods? Yes, it is, but in a fantastic way that they've just come together, that they just work really well together. So the basic premise is that you start on a map, and you and your competitors, you're all going out and you're exploring the local town. So you have so many actions, and you can either use them to buy new equipment or to build buildings in your village, or you can go out and explore and fight monsters and stuff like that. Fighting in Red Raven games has always been, I don't know. I've never. It's been all right, but nothing to write home about. But I actually really quite like the combat system in this one. So you have 4 slots. You roll a d4 dice, and that tells you which of the actions, which of the 4 slots you're going to use as your attack, and then you get hit back as well. It's actually a really simple system, and you can upgrade it so you can replace those slots with new things, new weapons, and it just works really well. I really like it. I find it less, in Sleeping Gods it's a little bit sort of complex, and I'm thinking in Sleeping Gods a bit here it's a little bit trickier and fiddly, and I don't know, it's not that much fun. But this is nice, quick, snappy. You can predict to a certain degree how well it's going to go, and it just suits this game really well, where combat isn't the main mechanism, but it's done really well. And then, like I say, so you're building a village. So the idea is that whoever has the most productive village in town is going to win the most points. So the idea is that on your move, on your goes, you're recruiting villagers and you're building buildings. You have a set of buildings that you can build from, and they give you different, maybe you'll gain an extra bed for a villager. Maybe you'll earn a bottled demon this round and each following round, or maybe you'll earn a shell. There's all these different bonuses, and you get them, and then you're also recruiting these villagers, but you've got to have beds to put the villagers in, and when you do, you'll get also like a shell or a hammer or a bottled demon or a crystal. And then at the end of each round, you produce based on what's in your village. And it's really, really clever and interesting. It's done it in a way that I've never seen before, because it's not about your engine as you're going along. It's about your final engine. And so at the end of the last round, everyone removes all of their resources, all of their money, all of their resources, sets them to 0. And then you do a final production round. And it's all about how good and efficient. And it's not about an efficient thing. It's about how much you produce on that final round. And that's really interesting. That's such an interesting way of measuring an engine building game. So you can really build towards building a really robust engine. And so maybe it doesn't produce your lots during the round, although obviously you need to produce some, because otherwise you won't be able to produce other things. But yeah, it's all about that final production. And it fits really thematically that you are producing. It's about who has the most productive village. And so yeah, it works thematically, and for an engine builder, it's fantastic. I would say that out of the trilogy of Near and Far, Above and Below, and Now or Never, that this probably feels more like Above and Below. So I actually realized in hindsight, so I got rid of Above and Below. I played it for a good number of years and I loved it, but when I got Near and Far and I was playing that, I got rid of Above and Below, thinking that I didn't really need to play it anymore. And in hindsight, I actually prefer Above and Below, and I would swap them back at some point. And Above and Below is a much shorter version of the engine builder that you get with Now or Never. But yeah, so it's definitely closer to Above and Below than Near and Far, but like I say, a very long version. But then you also have this beautiful story. You're going out and you're, interacting with the environment. Maybe you'll find this or you'll find that. And you can either play a campaign book where you're going through stories, much like you do in the previous 2 books and Sleeping Gods, or you can play a non-story version where you simply search and you'll find different things. And I like both of them, actually. The story is really beautiful and it's really nice, but and I do like it, and the campaign is kind of nice that you're going through the story, and it gives you variable setup from game to game, which is kind of cool. Not loads, but enough. But don't go into this expecting the real RPG aspects of, say, Sleeping Gods, and certainly not of other RPG games of the ilk. It's, the story is very much a mechanism and it's a background, but it's a really pleasurable one. My housemate, who I mostly play my games with and who I played all my games with this, felt it was a little bit distraction, that they'd rather have more story, and so they prefer Sleeping Gods. Whereas I actually quite liked having it as a backdrop, but it was all about this engine builder. And like I say, this was my favorite game, even though generally I prefer co-ops over competitive games. I'm really shocked that this is my favorite Red Ravens game. That's not what I'd expect from me. So yeah, there's that. So obviously it's got the same beautiful artwork as Above and Below, Near and Far, as all Red Raven games. It really does. And it plays really well, even though the first setup was a long setup, because you had quite a lot to figure out. Once we'd done it once, it was actually pretty quick the next few times. So the setup, yeah, at beginning, it takes a bit of time. The rules themselves, though, are actually pretty simple. It's not too thick a book and you can pick it up pretty easily. Sure, you'll have a few questions, but it moves at a click. And I haven't come across any situations where I've needed to look up on, the internet. Everything was answered within the book and easy to find. So that is awesome. And like I say, the artwork, but the components are beautiful as well. The board is beautiful. It also takes up a lot of space, huge amount of space. But the components are beautiful. I do think that the way that the book, the different resources that you have, they are these beautiful 3D wooden pieces, but it's a little bit clunky because they're on top of each other moving along the same track, and you do tend to knock them when you're trying to figure out others. So I don't know, I'm thinking about sort of 3D upgrades for my own set that I'll try and print. But so yeah, that's a little bit tricky, but the components themselves are beautiful. There are a couple of things where you've got to keep track of different things. So maybe it's your enemy's hit points, or maybe you'll get additional mana or health or something, or action points, and you don't necessarily have the obvious space to put them. So slight overthink, but it is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. But again, big table, lot of space, lot going on. The books, like I say, are beautiful. The story, I really enjoy it, even though we've played through the campaign books and we've not really come across many of the actual campaign specific things so far. It's just the way it's gone with the games and all down to the choices we've made. But if you're familiar with the others, the other three games that I mentioned, then you'll be very familiar with this. I love the combat, I love the engine building, I love the end, that it's all about the final engine. It's just, that's such a neat idea. It's really good. It ends after 6 rounds and you do your final production, and I love this game, I really do. So I've had the expansions for Above and Below, which was great, added new stuff. The one for Near and Far I didn't really like much. For Sleeping Gods I've not played, so I've got the Dungeons expansion, I've not got the other one, and I've not actually played the Dungeons expansion yet. But this one, I don't know, I don't think there's enough game here that I don't need an expansion, but like Above and Below, having additional stories would be really nice for once I've played through. So oh, I can't wait to play this one again. I really can't. I love this. Highly recommended. My favorite Red Raven game, and probably, oh my goodness, this is a top 5 game. This could be my number 2 game of all time right now. It sits that highly. So obviously we'll see how it gets to in 6 months, but I love this. Like I say, it's not for everyone. It's a big game. It takes a lot of time. If you preferred Above and Below to Near and Far, and you don't mind that the story is a backdrop and something fun in the background, this might be for you. I love it. Oh, wonderful. All right, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, tell me what you think about the game, and until next time, take care and bye.